Welcome to Living in the Ozarks, celebrating the people, businesses, and culture that make the Ozarks great.
John Lepant. I'm the owner of Craft Axe Throwing here in downtown Springfield.
And how long have you owned this?
I've been the owner for a little over 3 years. The business is going on 8-year anniversary in August. I worked for the company before, and when COVID hit, the owners were like kind of worried about all their liabilities with their leases, so they started franchising out. And so as soon as I could get things taken care of after COVID, I became the owner. First franchise in the company too.
Oh, wow.
So I'd like
Nice.
to pat myself on the back
Yeah,
for
that's
that
cool.
one.
That's awesome.
Cool. And what do you feel like you've done to improve or make it a little better?
A couple of different things.
Yeah.
One, the owner, he's not into giving guests a break, right? So he has like a fee, and he's just like, if you don't want it, that's too bad. I don't want to sound like that because he's a really nice guy. But even when I was working for him and I was a director in his company, I'd be like, let's do this special, let's do this. No, we need to keep our price point. And so one of the things I've done is I've lowered price points, created days where it's like half off or a special of some type, so that get more guests in who might be pinching pennies, get that opportunity. Because one of the things we say, this is relaxing entertainment, right? I love that pun.
Yeah.
But everybody needs that opportunity to get some tension out of their lives. And so I don't want it to just be for high-end guests.
Well, it's good that they give you the freedom to be able to do that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
'Cause I can see where some franchises definitely won't.
I know that. Yeah, I worked in the restaurant industry before I was
you?
doing this, and sometimes it's like your price point, you can't go lower than a certain value because it hurts the entire company. But maybe we're lucky because we've only got 12 or 15 locations across the U.S. We're not so big that happens.
Yeah. So you're from Texas originally, is that right?
No,
Or
I'm originally from Nebraska.
Nebraska.
Yeah, I married a Texan, and then I got one of those bumper stickers that says I wasn't born here, but I got here as fast as I could. Yeah.
And then what brought you to Missouri?
I just said how much I like Texas, but it was too hot in Texas. I'm originally from Nebraska.
Now, what part of
married-
Texas were you in?
Just the north, so Denton, which is
Okay,
just
yeah.
north of the Dallas-Fort Worth. They call it the Golden Triangle. So it's Fort Worth and Dallas, and then it goes up to a point to Denton. But it was too hot, and I just said to my wife, listen, can we move in between Nebraska and Texas? And so Missouri worked out real well.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you guys have family here? Any
Yeah,
connections here?
yeah, we do. So my in-laws live here. In fact, they live directly across the street. So all those
Right.
things about,
Springfield.
and we live in Ozark.
Oh, Ozark.
Yeah. We actually found our house because we were eating lunch at their house, and we had been looking. It was, what was it, 2018, 2019, somewhere there. And every house we'd go look at would be like, we'd go at 2, and they'd be like, it's already under contract. It went on the market today. And so we were having lunch with them and look across the street, and it's for sale by owner. So we call our realtor and was like, let's move on this real quick. But all those mother-in-law jokes, I have not found that to be true. I love having the in-laws
That's
directly
great.
across the
That's
street.
so
That's great.
cool.
I think it's kind of a mixed bag. Some people are like you're talking about, and some people really love their in-laws.
Yeah.
That's
It's
great.
probably the in-laws, I mean, they're just
It is.
sweet people, and I don't want to talk bad, but I grew up in a broken family.
Sure.
Painful, and so I get married and I get embraced in this family that's just like I was a son from day one.
Oh, wow.
So it was
That's
it was
great.
cool. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
That's really awesome. So you said you were in the restaurant industry for a
Yeah.
while before the axe throwing.
Yep.
You mind kind of going into that a little bit?
Yeah. So when I lived in Texas, I worked for Papa John's Pizza. Just started as a driver, just trying to make ends meet, and what I was doing elsewise wasn't working out, and just started moving up till I became a general manager for them, and then I was a training manager as well. But it just, guys, I'll be honest, I worked in the Papa John's I worked in, it was a laundromat before, and so it's just a cinder block deal, and cinder blocks will just absorb heat all day long. So it's like 4 o'clock, you've got this 500 degree oven, you've got cinder block baking, we had 3 air conditioners in this tiny little unit, and it was 85 degrees with all those running. You know, just, and I'm like, I can't do this. Now, the trade-off is I gained about 50 pounds since I worked there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I worked for Papa John's. I've done some other things as well throughout the years. When we first moved here in Ozark, I worked for a place called Hook and Ladder. So it was a pizza place in Ozark. He's got one, he shut that one down, but he still got one down on Hollister.
Yeah. It's good pizza too.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
How long were you there for?
About a year.
Okay.
And then it's so interesting how all this happened. I got a phone call. The guys who owned this owned escape rooms before, and then they built this. They're always looking for the new cutting thing.
Yeah.
And so I get a phone call from a friend, and he's like, have you ever thought about managing an escape room? I didn't know what they were. And so my first thought was like a nightclub bar thing, like, you know, escape. And I'm like, man, I'm a dad of 4 kids. And I don't want to be up till 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's not what an escape room is. So he explained it. So my friend was friends with these guys and got me connected. The interesting part about that is when we first opened, we would get phone calls, and they thought we were more like on the massage side of escape. And so there were some weird phone calls that came through.
No kidding.
I wouldn't have seen that guy.
Yeah.
But you know, back then, this was 2016, and so you're talking about no one had heard of this before. You know, we've had movies about it, and you know, they've done like the things on NCIS or CSI about these things. Back then, no one knew. They didn't know what it was, so they just see this word and they're like, "What is that?" So anyway, I moved up in that company, and I became their what was my title over there? Director of Operations. And then they started the Axe Houses, and I moved over to the Axe Houses and was the Director of Management for the Axe Houses. So it was fun. I got to travel a lot. They had them all the way from Nebraska to South Carolina. So I got to visit about 10 different states during that time. Michigan.
What was your favorite location?
Greenville, South Carolina was my favorite location.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why, so I'm, you know, real rectangular, all my lanes are on one wall. In theirs, they were thinner rectangular, and so they would build, like they built some that were facing the front doors, and then there was a walkway between, and then on the backside were some that were up against those, and then there was a back wall that some, and so they had all this like broken up area where you're, I don't know, maybe that kid in me, like you got to go through this secret passage between lanes into another area. They also had skee ball there, and just a little more of an arcade feel. And then it was in an old rail station, so it just had that
That's awesome, too.
railway feeling.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Very unique. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Which I think you're doing a really good job too about just having, you know, we looked at some of the extra activities that you have for people to do here. And, you know, it's unique, you know, it's exciting, it's kind of fun, it's a cool environment when you come in here. Definitely feels like it's centered around, you know, group activities, having fun together, you know, bonding, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, that's true. We get a lot of team building type of activities.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, you know, you talk, it isn't really just Christmas. So you'll have other ones. We had a really interesting one just the other day. Geico contacted us, and they had 40 agents who came in all at one time. So they rented out the whole place. Remember that big hailstorm we had?
Oh, yeah.
They were so overwhelmed that they brought 40 agents in from the U.S. across the U.S. and put them up in hotels, and they needed something to do to
Just an outlet.
fill some
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And I'm sure it was stressful. You're meeting all these people who feel like it was the end of the world, and it's like you just lost a windshield, you know?
Right.
And trying to get them, and then, I don't know if you guys are knowing this, but it's almost impossible still to get your windows fixed because they're so far behind. So those guys were probably stressed, and they came in and they broke up a bunch of wood.
That's awesome.
But
How did they find you?
probably just Google.
Google, yeah.
Never really asked. But just be honest, I got the phone call and I was excited, you know?
Yeah.
That's a $1,500 sale like that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. That's why I asked, because I'm like, well, how did they find you?
So,
Was it just Google or?
Yeah, We
you
have
guys
found,
advertise?
we advertise on Google. Working with the escape rooms, I really was like a mini owner of the escape rooms. So it was like, here's your budget, spend it how you feel fit, make your own promos. And Facebook worked really well back then. And so, guys, in 2017, I made a Facebook post that got 50,000 views. And just a simple Facebook post. I didn't put any money behind it, nothing. And now Facebook has throttled businesses because they want your money. So if you don't put a little something behind it or do this or make it go into an algorithm in some way, you'll be lucky to get 500 views, And so we put money behind things, and we just found for the best bang for your buck is Google, and it's not close. So yeah, if you Google things to do in Springfield, I think we pop up number 2. And it's not just because we're popular, it's because we put money to help us stay up there.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I think it's, my experience has been the more random the content, the greater the chance of it going viral.
Yeah, we found that. So the girl who I was telling you earlier about, the girl who was real creative with art, she was also real creative on TikTok, and we had several TikToks that got 3,000 or 4,000 views. And then she left us. I was like, maybe I need to bring her back and give her a giant raise.
It's funny because on TikTok, it's some of the simplest things sometimes that cause it to become, like, I've got one that went, I think it was like 30,000 on TikTok.
Yeah.
And it was a simple question of like, where are you from? How did you find the Ozarks? What brought you here? And simple little things like that.
Yeah.
That people, they like that sense of connection.
Sure. Yeah.
And some people are transplants. There's a lot of transplants we have here.
Right.
And they found this place and they stayed here for a reason.
Yeah.
And figuring out that sometimes can be really.
What was your reason for sticking? Like, I love it here.
I'm born and raised here.
You were born and raised. All right. Are you both too?
Me too.
All right. Well, then let me answer that question. So I grew up in the North, married a Southerner.
Yeah.
Really, guys, here you get a little bit of both.
Right.
So you've got, your northern, like Bolivar type of folks who are really northern Midwestern. And then you got your kind of Ozark Branson folks who are really Southern. And I love it because I miss the North and I miss the South, and I get a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
So I won't
And I
go
would agree with
anywhere.
that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that 100%.
Yeah, it's interesting how this area, especially like Southwest Missouri region, it's so much more diverse than what people think at face value.
I agree.
And there's a lot going on around this area.
I agree. Yeah. Now, do you know the difference between the North and the South, like in a Walmart line?
Oh boy.
So
Is this a joke or is this?
no, it's true. I lived it.
Okay.
So in the North, you go into a Walmart line, and the only conversation will be, all right, your total's 1963. That's it, because you don't talk to each other. And if you turn and say something to somebody, they're going to look at you like, in the South, it's like, oh, Shug, you should have heard what happened today. And then after you've both paid, you go down and you talk at the end of the aisle for a little bit so other people can get through. Yeah.
I think we would fall into the latter part, generally speaking.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was shocked the first time I was in line in a Southern Walmart, and the person just starts talking to me. I'm like, do I know you? I'm from the North. Don't talk to me.
And they're like, well, you do now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
My name's Dustin.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, it is kind of neat too in this area how even if you're new to the area, it's really welcoming to people, and it's that sense of community and connection really anywhere you go, grocery store, or go out to the bar, or axe throwing, like anywhere you go, it seems like you have that sense of community here, which is pretty cool.
I agree.
It's the little big town type feeling.
Yeah. That brings up an interesting point. So when people are coming in and we're putting people into our lanes, we try to spread them out, right? So we got 12 lanes, so we might put 2, 4, 6, 8, just start to spread them out. And you would not believe how often folks kind of move towards each
Gravitate.
other because you've got a couple in lane 2 and a couple in lane 4, and they're sitting in lane 3 kind of talking to each other because that's our way here.
Yeah.
It is. It is. I would agree with that. Now, with your neighbors, are you buddies with a lot of them too?
Yeah.
Some of the other businesses that are.
Sure. we're pretty much the longest standing tenant here. We kind of argue, there's a tattoo parlor, and we argue because their first day of business was before ours, but we were here like 3 or 4 months before them paying rent while we were building out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've known over the years, gotten to know pretty much everybody, and one of the heartbreaking things is when people move out. So we had a really awesome restaurant 4 or 5 doors down called 417 Tap House. And Zachary ran it, and he closed about a year ago. And it was like, it's like a neighbor moving out of the community who your kids grew up together and all that stuff. But otherwise, we get to know each other pretty well. Very diverse group, you know, between entertainments and food and tattoo
this has
parlors.
always just been here, right? It's never been anywhere else.
You're talking about this business?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've always been in this unit since day one, August of 2018. Yeah.
That's amazing. And a good location too, I think, for what you guys offer here.
Yeah.
You're close to all the bars. There's a lot of restaurants around you. Like I said, it's all the entertainment kind of centralized together in this area, which I'm sure.
Yeah, go to Springfield Little Theater, come over here, throw some axes,
Yeah.
some spears.
Grab a bite to eat, maybe come back and throw some more, you know?
And they do. They'll now we've had this little issue for the last year or so. So Phillips County Bank bought the old Y, and they tore down. Now they're building up, and we used to get a lot of walk just across from Walnut, across this parking lot, and now it's all sectioned off because it's construction zone. It's hurt us a little bit, but not tremendously. I mean, people just walk around them now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Now, I know you already shared with us, but go ahead and share with anybody who might be watching about some of the stuff that you're excited about, stuff coming up.
Yeah, man. We got a new venture that we're going to be bringing in. We're going to call it RC Dirt Box, and that's going to be the first phase of it. I'll tell you about the other phases. But the first phase, I'm going to build a sandbox and throw some of these RC like excavators and loaders and skid steers and things like that, and you can move dirt around in it. There's some that will you can pick up logs and stuff, which might be more for kids. For us guys, we have a competition we're going to build. So there's going to be a weighing station, and it's basically like you two would be competing against me and a buddy, and you've got the excavator putting dirt into his dump truck, and then you go weigh out, and you got like 15 minutes to see who can get the most dirt weighed out. And we are going to have like a tunnel or something. So you're digging on one side, you got to go through the tunnel to the weigh station on the other side. So create a little bit of competition and fun in that.
Man. Yeah, we'll have a company event here. I can see that.
Sounds good.
It might get out of hand, but it'll be fun.
And then we're thinking about adding extra ones. It probably will require either taking out some lanes or adding space. So there is space in the back that's available at this time that I may be able to use. But another one is, have you ever seen the crawlers that have like the independent suspension and they can crawl up like super steep? So you build like a mountain with a good steep and see who can get to the top first in their little RC car. So different things like that. Have some fun with that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you can't really do with axe throwing, I mean, you can, but it's difficult. You can't really take axe throwing to a company event, right? So they're having a picnic somewhere. You have to have a trailer. You have to have a place to store that trailer. You have to have a place to keep it dry because if the wood gets wet, it's going to ruin everything to take out to them. And then you have 1, maybe 2 lanes, right? With this, you can take it out to a company event and have a, maybe a course that you just set up in 5 minutes and let them play around on that.
Oh yeah.
So kind of excited about that. We call ourselves craft axe throwing, but we're going to try to move more into an entertainment arcade type of thing. Like Andy B's. It's supposed to be bowling, right? But they took off the bowling, and now it's just an entertainment venue with all kinds of fun stuff to do. Yeah. So I never compete with them, but we'll be like their little brother or something.
Yeah, that's cool. I would see it. I mean, I could see it being hilarious to have you guys bring out like a mobile mini excavation crew on one of our job sites.
Yeah, right.
Have like live equipment running with
probably for your guys. So we're going to make a video watching these guys do their work across the way.
Yeah.
And our video is basically going to be like, have you ever dreamt about driving one of those things? Heck yeah. Well, now you can, you know, because
awesome.
I did some construction work back in the day, but I was more like the, hey, go get this, fetch this, do this. And I got to get in the skid steer one time. And I was like, all right, man, this is awesome. So,
Oh, it's so much fun.
It
of
is
course,
fun.
yeah. Right up until you mess something up, right? And get yelled at by the boss. Oh, you are the boss. So
Yeah.
you
Well,
only
it
yell at
depends
yourself.
on who you are, right? You can,
Yeah.
If you're the boss, you can blame it on someone else.
Is that how that works? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Really interesting story too. Like it sounds to me like this probably wasn't something you really envisioned early on in your career. You know,
No.
So it's kind of neat. What did that kind of feel like? The transition from like working somewhere as an employee to elevated to a manager to being director of operations to now being an owner of a company.
Well, I think it really goes all the way back to just, I love people, right? And I just all the way back to when I'm a driver at Papa John's and I'm 25 years old or 30 years old or whatever it is. And I just love people. I love that guest interaction. I love getting back in the store and building people up. And so then it's like, well, now you can be a kind of a leader. And so now I have permission to build people up. And so those transitions weren't really difficult for me right up until ownership, right? So it's like director of management, I get to fly out and visit one of my managers, or I get to make phone calls. That's cool. Now it's, you got to own your business. I don't mind this in here when I got a guest, let's, do whatever. But the parts about, making the bills, I'm good. I'm good with the money and the accounting and stuff. But it's like, you would know, you get the bill in the mail you forgot about, and you had your checking accounts at that amount, and you're like, crap, I forgot about this. That's been hard. Difficult nights, sleepless nights, thinking how I'm going to make this happen. But I wouldn't trade it for nothing. It's, I'm a person who loves growth, and the only way to really grow is to climb an obstacle. The only way to get higher is to climb, and some of those climbs have stunk. But let me use this as an analogy. A few years ago, my family went for vacation to South Dakota, and so there was a hike that we went on, and it's like climb at your own risk. Okay, so we climbed as high as we possibly could, and that view from the top was worth all the fear, all the cuts and bruises, the scrapes on your fingers, that you're climbing. It was worth it all. And just be up there and look around. Yeah. I'm no way in saying I'm at the pinnacle in my business, but whatever viewpoint I'm at right now, it's definitely worth it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What do you think, just reflecting back over your career, especially, transitioning from really leadership to leadership and ownership, what do you think the most difficult part of that has been for you?
That's kind of interesting. I would say the most difficult part, especially going back to the people part, I had the opportunity to invest on the same people, same person over and over. And now, the guests that come through my door, for the most part, you've got newcomers and second or third time after 8 years. So I'm pretty good with faces, and I'll recognize, and I'll be like, hey, you've been here before. And they'll be like, yeah, but it was like 3 years ago. I remember, But you don't get that opportunity to really invest. So I can't remember their name. I can't remember their story. I like that part. And so that's been a difficult transition where you don't have that group of people that you've really invested in, and you're able to say, hey, Dustin, how's the wife and kids? Hey, last time we talked, you said you were going, fishing, or you were starting this venture. How's it working? Yeah. Now it's the guests who come through. I get a handful of those. I was telling you earlier about the guest who's so good, he can hit pretty regular. He just got married last fall. So when they came in, I had the opportunity to be like, how was the wedding? How was the honeymoon? How'd it go? But it's rare. And so that's been difficult, that investment part of getting to really know those people well. But again, I wouldn't trade ownership. I just got to find those friendships and those investments elsewise.
Yeah.
Do you guys have like a recurring membership? Where
Yeah, we do. No one takes advantage of it, but we do. Hey, take advantage of our membership plan. In fact, we can bargain on what prices you want to pay. Yeah, so we do. You can do membership, and we have like a platinum, gold, silver, bronze, and you pay a monthly fee, and then it determines how often you can come in the month, how much you got to pay, maybe a little extra, how much your guests would have to pay. But over the course of, we've had it for about 3 years. We've only had 3 people take advantage of it. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's not a good enough plan or what. We've tried different things. But it's there if someone wanted to take advantage of it. Yeah.
Sounds like something really valuable for some of your bigger clients, maybe like the Geico example you shared with us.
corporate? Yeah. You need more corporate.
So that's what the platinum level is. It's for a corporate group, so whether it's O'Reilly's or Bass Pro or somebody, they can buy that, and what they get is they get like passes that we laminate, and they can give them out to their employees to come and say, I'm with this company. But I've never sold one of those. So we'll see. Maybe this will work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my brain's just gonna go, and I'm like,
So
okay.
yeah. So one thing we've done to kind of take that down to a lower level, we automatically, so you have to check in every time you come in, and you have to have a current waiver on file. So when you come in, we've got a QR code, and you're going to zap it. You put in your email. If it doesn't recognize it, you got to do that waiver. Those waivers stay active for 3 or 4 years. So for the most part, you just put in your email, it says you're good to go. It'll tell you which visit. Well, we have a check-in plan. Each 5th time you check in, you're going to get something free from us. Oh, cool. So it's kind of a membership without signing up for it. One of the interesting things, you guys may be like me. I've got like 4 emails, and you go to some place and you're like, crap, which email did I use?
Yeah, I put it in there.
Yeah.
Nope, don't recognize you.
Yeah. And so people run into that problem. And so just try the other one. We got time.
Yeah.
And they usually find the one. I was like, okay, now remember that, because you've got 3 check-ins. You want to get that 5th check-in and get that freebie. So, and just so you know, the first freebie is an automatic free upgrade to, like you guys were throwing the spear before.
Yeah.
So you get an upgrade to those extra items for free. So you just pay your regular fee, and then you get that for free.
That's really cool. Yeah, I think it was the spear and the throwing stars, the axes, I think that's what we threw today.
Yeah.
Those were pretty fun. The spear and the throwing stars were, I'm not really good with the axe throwing, so the spear was pretty fun for me.
So I love puns. You got to come back until you become an expert.
An expert. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Do you have kids?
I have 4, all boys. Yeah,
Nice.
can you
man.
imagine?
What are their ages?
So I got one that'll be 26 here in a month or 2,
Okay.
all the way down to 18. So 26, 23, 20, and 18. Wow. Yeah. I think I told you before, my wife's a nurse. She became a nurse because I had 4 boys. And I kid you not.
Probably a good idea.
So much blood and broken bones. And she was like, okay. And it got to the point where like, one of the boys busted his head open and just glued it together because she knows how to do that,
Yeah. Oh man, that's amazing. Having, especially in today's world, like what it
You don't
takes
have any yet, do you?
Not yet, no. But man, we might have to get a on staff nurse if we need more than one. My gosh.
Boys, like I always wanted my boys to be wild. Like just be a boy. Just have fun. I'm not going to try to tame you. But the things that they would do is like, what were you thinking? One of my sons.
Yeah. There's always one at least.
Yeah.
One of my sons had a tree you could climb in our front yard, and so he ties a rope up there and he's swinging. Great, have fun. Well, he thinks to himself, I got an idea. I'm going to tie this around my waist and swing by my waist. There's only like 7 or 8, maybe 9, 10, but that's enough weight that's an issue. But he also didn't make a very good round, and it slid all the way up and got him all the way, got him a bad rope burn. And I'm thinking, okay, the tree was only like 15 feet up, and he came down. But if you were higher and that had wrapped around you, you'd be hanging there.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
You know?
Break your neck.
And I was
oh
like,
my gosh.
yeah, we've got a lot of stories about how each one of them almost killed themselves. And
Oh
yeah,
man.
It's funny,
The-
not funny. I mean, it really
bro,
is.
the last one turned 18 in February, and I was like, did it.
You made it.
I made it. It's on them now,
Oh
right?
my.
Yeah.
And do they all live here?
Yeah, in the area. So, you know, of course, we live in Ozarks. So I got one that lives in Springfield and one who lives in Nixa, and then one who goes to school in Rolla. So they're kind of spread out, but not
Engineering,
far.
huh?
Yeah, we're excited. He's our retirement plan.
Does he know that?
Oh, crap. Can you edit that?
We'll edit that out. Don't worry. Yeah.
No, we've joked with him before. He was a soccer star in high school, and he was good, but he's not great. He plays on the team up there, but you don't go pro in soccer. All the pro guys are from across the world, right? But people around would be like, "You think he'll go pro?" It's like, "Yeah, he's a retirement plan," and we were totally being sarcastic, but yeah.
That's funny.
That's really cool.
Anyway, I appreciate, so my family, there was 5 of us, and at one point we lived in 5 different states.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, man, that sucks for my folks, you know, because to come and see us, and it wasn't like you could go straight down states or whatever. I mean, it was Minnesota, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, and Texas, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, how do you go see, you got to make special trips.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm grateful that my kids are, and it's a different world. Back then you didn't have text. Now I can shoot a text and, hey, I haven't seen you for a while. Let's get together for lunch or whatever.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
It is true. It is a different world than what it was back then.
It's kind of neat though in this area. It seems like Southwest Missouri, especially, just another reason why it's so great. But we're kind of right in the middle too, because I've got family all over the country, and it's like we're kind of centralized, and instead of us having to go to everybody kind of comes to us right here.
Isn't
in the
that
middle,
nice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So-
it's pretty great.
My folks still live in Lincoln, Nebraska, and they go they're kind of in that semi-retired stage. So they go live in Florida for 3 months a year. And so they come stay with us on the way there and come and stay with us on the way
nice.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I get 2 free visits a year just off of that, you know.
Because that's what, like an 8-hour drive or something like that?
It's from Nebraska to here, it's, roughly for them, definitely 8. For me, yeah.
It's like 6.
Yeah. My wife owns we call it the Thunder Chicken. She owns a GT 5.0 convertible cherry red Mustang.
Oh, nice.
So, it doesn't.
Cuts down on the trip time.
You keep your
Doesn't take
highway,
8.
your police scanner on when you're driving.
No. She's pretty good at talking her way out of tickets.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, well, you kind of have to be when you've got a fast car like that and you use it,
Yeah.
That's just bad news for me. I'm like, nope. I'm probably better not to ever have one of those babies, because I would just be in trouble all
So
the time.
I'll be honest. So you set your cruise, right? And you probably go your amount, whether it's 5 or 10 miles an hour or whatever.
Somewhere between, yeah.
It's those when you get kind of caught and you're like, hey, there's an opening here and I can get around these 5 cars. That's when it's fun. So you do 95 for 15 seconds or whatever. You just hope there's no one watching at that point.
Yeah.
But that's what saves you the time right there.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Now, do your kids also have any interest in entering the business, or
Yeah,
are
so my marketing manager is my oldest son. So
Okay.
he has a degree in electronical media production, and so he does a lot of our stuff. So he works here. He runs shifts in between. And then my youngest son, he just graduated high school, so he was just kind of working here to, make some spending money
Sure.
and spend on girls and whatnot.
Sure.
He still works here now, but he probably won't. He'll want to go get unfortunately, the job is really a couple of full-time people and then several part-time, because most of the business is Friday through Sunday.
Yeah.
Each one of them have worked here at one time or another, and I will not compete with several of them because they will kill me. It's like playing basketball. You only play until they're
You mean
12.
with the particular
With the
weapon, or
yeah.
just any of them?
With the axes, I have I have 2 sons. So my youngest is super, super good. So it really, anybody.
Because you started him young, right?
I guess. I don't know how he got to be so good. From time to time, I'll set up a special lane. It'll be a prize lane. And so in this prize lane, we'll put stuff on the lane and you've got to hit special items. And so in March, we had one that was kind of a Lucky Charms lane. So it had a rainbow and it had a shamrocks and horseshoes and this. And so you had to hit 5 items in 5 throws and you could win a free 1-year membership. And it's tough. And I can't. My son came in, he's like, oh, you put up the new prize lane. And so he throws a couple times to get himself warmed up, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm like, are you stinking kidding me? He's 17 at the time. No, he had just turned 18. And I'm like, you need to enter some competitions, bro. These guys make a bunch of money doing this crap.
Yeah.
You know?
That's
Yeah,
cool.
so I will not compete against my sons.
I'm sure it's something too that, that just thinking of me being a young kid growing up, like, wouldn't this be a fun place to get to come hang out,
Yeah.
with my dad and throw axes and stuff like that. I'm sure they've enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Now, do you own this place or you rent? You lease it?
Yeah, I lease. So the building, I lease it. It's a historical building, had a really cool things that we couldn't do because of it.
Yeah, that's
On the outside, you can do almost nothing just because of the historical whatnot.
Right.
We wanted to put up a sign. The insurance guys, over the course of time, would have been far more than the sign itself. I think it was something like $400 a month for the insurance on a sign because it's a historical building. Yeah. So here's what we did. It's cool. I had a kid who worked here during COVID who was real crafty, and we got a mechanical room in the back and have all kinds of machinery. And so up in the top behind that duct, there's these 22 by 22 windows, I don't know. He cut boxes and cut the letters Craft Axe and then bought like LED lights.
Yeah.
And so when we turn on the lights, those will be colors. But he painted the inside of the boxes white, so in the daytime, it's a sign from across the way, but at the same time at night it'll glow.
Nice.
And it's like, it cost me $300, which is less than 1 month's insurance would have been.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
That's
Yeah, it
awesome.
is.
And unique too, like, especially with entertainment stuff. I feel like today you really do want to press into the uniqueness of the business because there's a lot of stuff to do in Springfield.
Yeah.
I mean, more restaurants and entertainment than most
Yeah.
towns and cities have.
Yeah. I think that has a lot to do with Branson. So you get folks who come to Branson, they've spent a few days there, and then they're like, hey, I've kind of done everything here. I want to go up to Springfield for the day. Wonders of Wildlife has been a huge hit for us. So we get a ton of folks who either coming or going to Wonders of Wildlife. But so they'll come and they'll kind of check us out while they're up here. And so we've got tons of entertainments around. And
So another question, do you guys, and maybe you have or maybe you've thought about it, do you sell like axes or products that...
Yeah, not axes. So axes, you can get them online for
Sure,
cheaper
sure,
than
I'm
I
just-
can get them for
yeah.
you. But I do sell some of the other weapons. So I sell a batarang and a ninja star. So it's the two that I brought out to you guys, is the ones that you can sell.
Which
So
are really easy to use.
they
too.
are, yeah.
So,
yeah.
if you need
Anybody can throw one of those
Right.
buddies.
So I have a friend who owns a fabrication company. He cuts them. I kind of grind off the edges, put a little enamel paint on them, different colors, and sell them off.
Yeah, nice.
And so, I also do a bottle opener. It looks like an axe, but you can't really throw it. Like people are like, oh, that'd be cool to throw. Well, it's not sharp. We don't make it sharp on purpose.
Yeah.
So just a little something. It's surprising to me, even though that's for the batarangs and the stars are for throwing, a lot of people will buy it just to put up, so they'll put it on their
Decoratively, yeah.
wall or inside of a case or something. And so, I mean, as long as I make the sale, I don't care what you do with it. Just don't kill somebody, right?
Yeah.
And do you guys do competitions or anything like that where you
Believe
give
it or
out
not.
gold axes or something?
No.
I'm
Now,
just
yeah.
Anything kind of neat like
That's
that.
a great idea. So we have, for any guest that comes through, we do have a a little competition thing that they can do. In the targets, you've got what we call kill shots. So in the one circle, there's 2 blue dots up there. And sometimes we'll put paint around them. So, like we put a ghost in October and a tree around Christmas, and you saw shamrock still from March in yours.
Yeah.
We let that count, but the first person in any group that hits both of those dots wins a koozie. So just a little memorabilia. I don't think I could do an axe. Those things are $60, $80, and I'd have to get a little more. Like if you can hit both the dots and then the red dot and then this and then I'll give you.
Right?
Yeah, but if you got the
Eyes
best of the best, and you did a competition once a month,
Right.
then you can justify it.
So here's kind of an interesting thing that happened. About 2 years ago, so there's an overall organization over axe throwing. It's called the World Axe Throwing League, so they go by Waddle. And guys got so good that you'd have perfect scores. So they added new things to the targets, and there were leagues that were running in Springfield at the time, and it kind of shut down the leagues because people were like, now it's too hard. And so I try to do rec leagues. We'll go back to those old ones, and we'll just do rec leagues. And I'm actually going to try to shoot up rec leagues again, this summer or fall. So you just get 5 or 6 guys out, just camaraderie, something for guys to do. You told me you have a men's group that gets together.
Sure.
Men need men to hang out with. Just drink a brew and talk about things and, vent a little bit. you know?
I mean, there's nothing better than drinking a beer and throwing some axes or spears or whatever.
No kidding. No kidding. That's really cool. Yeah, and it's something too, it's even the few minutes that we got to try it out, it doesn't take 5 minutes or so to kind of figure it out, but it's really not something you can do at home either. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
Like you said, even mentioning what you've learned with the targets and how to put up ingrain and how to make the targets so they'll stick, right?
Yeah.
They aren't just bouncing off every time and
Right.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
When I was a kid, we threw our pocket knives at trees and whatnot.
Yeah,
And it's really interesting because when this concept first came out, so we were in the escape rooms and the owner's like, hey, I was thinking about doing this. 2 or 3 things went through my head to start with. First of all, sharp objects and alcohol. And I wasn't sure how that was going to work out. But the other thing was I threw my pocket knife at a tree and it would glaze off. And I was like, where'd it go? And I got to go find it. Because it's a flat surface, it's a lot easier for that very reason. And so, you can't necessarily do it at home. And if you do, one of the things that's going to hurt, when we first opened, we used pine wood. And we would go through about 50 boards a week, maybe more in busy times. When we first opened, we had 1,000 boards sitting up against the wall there because it's like, we're going to go through 50 or 60 a week. Getting complaints about filling up the dumpster. Like, there's got to be a better way. And so we moved. 2 different woods we've used is poplar and cottonwood. So we're using cottonwood now. It's more durable. It has like these strains in it that hold it together longer. It's much more expensive, but much more durable. So now we go through like 5 boards a week. We're paying 3 times as much, but using 1/10 of the product, and no complaints about filling the dumpsters. And so you do it at home. You put up a pine board, and after about an hour, it's gone because you're going to tear it up.
Sure.
And if you're big and strong, you might split the whole board on your first throw. So, yeah.
Yeah. So how did you get the idea? You showed us you've got a couple different types of targets.
Yeah.
One that was kind of intriguing to me was taking the 6x6 posts and compacting. Where'd you get the idea for that?
So one of the cool things about it is, with a plank board, you've got this grain that runs up and down. And when the board is fresh, one of the things we do, by the way, is we add water to our boards because that helps expand the grains and makes it easier to stick. So when it's a fresh board, you've got this long grain running up and down. And if you're a baseball player like I was, sometimes your axe comes a little bit askew of that grain and it'll bounce off because it didn't hit in the grain. And we found over the course of time that the wood that was more chewed up was easier to stick. So it's not visually pleasing, and the guest looks like, hey, you need to change this board, but it's easier to stick in that board. And one of the guys in the company, I don't know if he heard about another company that's using it or what, he's thinking, well, what if we use the end grain of something? You know, because that's like in Canada, there's a lot of axe throwing places who find these big trees, and it's a big circular, you know, maybe 4-foot diameter tree.
Yeah.
And so they thought, well, how do we find these and how do you ship them in? And someone somewhere came up with this idea of creating a press. And so basically what we have is 49 blocks that are in a press. So it presses from the top and from the side. And, you know, it's a 6x6 post, but really it's 5x5 or something.
Right.
So you just press these 49 blocks together and it's all end grain. So I went yesterday to Home Depot. I bought an 8-foot board and chopped it down and then, you know, replace them one by one. One of the cool things too that we learned over time, you can flip those. So once the front side's used, you can flip it and use the back side.
Oh, nice.
And so it's much easier for the guests to be able to stick, especially if you got a little wobble in your axe. And you can even throw sideways if you know what you're doing, and it'll stick in sideways. And then the expenses really drop for us doing that. It's labor intensive though.
Sure.
Because there's all these bolts that are pressing it, and you got to unscrew them, stick them in, take them out, and put them back together. But I mean, as far as the material,
It was great throwing on that. I mean, it stuck pretty well and no issues.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys go to any are there events that you go to for thrower? You know, anybody that's throwing?
No, so that's a really interesting question. So when we were in the escape rooms, we would do events. So you would go because you're looking at devices and what's something I could add to a room, something that's really neat. And, you know, so those conventions were cool. In the axe throwing realm, for the most part, you don't have that. And so anything you really need, you find online. So you follow other axe houses and you follow... I'm in a couple of groups, you know, of owners or managers of axe houses. Hey, here's something we're trying. Here's something we're doing. And then you just let them try it and figure it out. And, you know, they become your safety net so you don't spend a bunch of money on something dumb, you know. Yeah.
That's really cool.
And there might be conventions out there, but I haven't gone.
I just wondered. I'm like, there's conventions for everything, but wasn't sure about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those, like you mentioned earlier, in Canada with the stumps. That's how all I've ever seen of axe throwing was those like giant stumps turned on their side and huge guys, I'm guessing lumberjacks probably, right? The big beards, and they're just chucking axes at it, you know.
Yeah.
But this is actually really cool too. I really had no expectations when I got here. And I was pretty blown away. It's pretty neat.
Good.
It's a lot, you know, at first you think like, throwing an axe, you know, but once you do it once or twice, it's like, oh man, I could easily burn up an hour at a time doing this. Like, yeah, we actually have a special, and we kind of advertise it in the lanes for just $5 extra. You can bump up 30 more minutes. So it's a super special. I mean, you can't get that online or anything because you have a guest who they got 5 minutes left. They come over and let them know, hey, you got about 5 minutes. No, we need more time. And so I just add it right on. That's cool. And just for anyone that might have missed it, what does if a couple wants to come out on a date night and spend an hour in the lane, what does that kind of cost? And
so for we have tiered pricing. For 2 people, it'd be $23 a person to come out. And then as you go up, so just one extra person, it drops it down to $21. As you go up in time, it also kind of chops down that per minute
so
pay.
So 23 is for an hour?
23 is an hour for 2 people. Yeah. Well, 23 per. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So really, I mean, you know, for people that want to come do this, bigger group, the better. It sounds like.
Absolutely.
More people, more time, you get a better deal. And it's just in the 10, 15 minutes we spent, I would say an hour is probably not enough. You're going to want more than that.
Right.
I want more. I'm ready to throw some more.
Yeah, you know, we get a lot of couples that come in, you know, date night, anniversary, Valentine's. Valentine's is one of our biggest days of the year.
Okay, I'm bringing my wife.
Yeah, there you go.
That's right, fellas.
Hey,
she's going to be like, absolutely not.
Let me interject a quick story. The first week we were open, we had this like 6'5" fireman who came in with his little 5'2" blonde wife, and they threw in this lane right here, and she smoked him.
Oh man!
He won one round, And I kid you not, she let him. You could tell. You could tell.
That's funny.
If he's watching, I'm sorry, bro.
I know.
So going back to bigger groups, though, it's like more fun, right? So if you go do a double date, you got more fun going on because now you're not competing against your significant other.
Right.
You know, that can create a lot of problems. Like my wife and I ran a church youth group when we were younger, and when we play basketball, the kids wouldn't let us play on opposite teams. Because we're too competitive, you know? And so it's like, you get this, now you can compete couple to couple or guy against guy and girl against girl or whatever, you know, or if it's individual, at least you're not competing against your wife. Right. So just bumping up to 4 people, you get the discount, you get the more fun, all the good stuff. But then when you go like into team building, that's pretty cool as well. So we have some that come out every year for like Christmas groups or the construction company here, DeWitt, that's doing across the street. They come out every year, and they already set up like brackets and stuff and team names, and they'll go and they'll have prizes for their teams, and so
I think maybe Valiant Group had an event that I was not able to make here.
Yeah,
but I'm not sure.
Could be.
I think it was like, hey, let's team build and get together, but I'm not sure that it was here.
And it gets fun with smaller large groups, so like 15, 20 people. If they'll let us at the end, we'll have a throw off. So everybody gets one throw, and you know, you kind of eliminate, and then the top 3 people will give like a t-shirt, hat, and a battering or something, you know, something just so they get something. And it is amazing to me how often the guy who is doing really well and is expected to win loses out to like the administrative assistant at the end because he gets overly confident. And it's one throw. So it's not like you get one throw and she gets a lucky throw and she wins the t-shirt. Oh, wow. And he's, stuck with the thing down the line for second place.
Man, that's really cool. I mean, it's awesome what you guys are doing here, and you've designed a really cool environment, and it's just a lot of fun. It's just a great activity to do, and really creative with the team building stuff and all the different things you've brought in. Looking at your upgrade wall over there. I mean, like different size throwing stars, batarangs, throwing knives, small little hatchets,
saw blades.
Shovels, like the machete. I was kind of surprised. That's pretty. You don't see that very much.
Machete's kind of fun, so we experimented with that. That's just like a $6 machete from Walmart. It's cool because when you throw it, you can hear it swoosh through the air. And then when it sticks, it'll wobble and so it's like you feel like you're a pirate, like throwing a big sword or whatever.
Everybody wants to be a pirate.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
I'm gonna answer a question you guys haven't asked. The name. So craft axe throwing is one of the reasons that we named ourselves that. Back when we started this, craft breweries were really big. So we carry a ton of craft beers. So I've got the refrigerator over here. We have 2 levels of mainly just locals and crafts.
Oh, wow.
And so we've got 4x4, SBC, Mothers. It's a cool opportunity for $5 to try something new that you've never done before. And I'll just let your people watching know, I have a standing thing that if you try a beer and you absolutely hate it, I will give you another one for free.
Wow.
Because I want you to be able to sample something and be like, well, let me try this one from Mothers. It's local, and oh my God, this is terrible. Here, let's just go back to Michelob Ultra, okay? Yes, that's your thing. Because it's more. I want you to have a good time and be able to walk away and say that was worth it, and not trying to suck down a beer that you really didn't want.
Right. I think that's cool because a lot of people, including myself, sometimes are turned away from stuff like that just because it's like $5 or $6. I've never I might not even like it. Don't want to just waste something. So that's pretty cool, and something I really appreciate about what you do here. And we talked a little bit earlier, transition period in your life. One of the hardest parts is the connection. But it's really cool that you still make time to do that as the owner, with everything on your plate. that's something to me when we go to especially a local establishment, to get to talk to the owner, even just a few minutes, right? To have them actually want to engage with you. It's really powerful. It's really cool that you're able to do that here.
Right. Yeah, I enjoy it. Go ahead.
I see your little Viking helms and all that stuff, and I think so. I've got a friend of mine, and she does, and I don't know what she's going to kick my butt for when she sees this. I don't remember the name, but it's like they have these outdoor competitions, and I think, it'd be cool if either you could partner with some of those groups, bring them in here, because they do some stuff where they're throwing whole logs and whatnot, or the competitions you see online where they're cutting up
the strongman type of things,
kind of stuff,
lumberjacks
like
or something. Yeah, those are cool.
But they get all dressed up, and they put ribbons in their hair and braid them and everything else. I mean, they really go all out. Highland Games or something like that along those lines. And I think if there's a way you could combine that, I don't know. But you said it's hard to go mobile.
Yeah, it is difficult. The closest we have to that, at the end of their time, they have the opportunity to take their photos with the, Viking horns and stuff like that. Yeah. They can dress up. We have, over the years, had people who came dressed up, whether it was for Halloween or just a couple days ago, we had people come in who were going to watch The Mandalorian, and so they were dressed up prior to going to the movie.
Oh wow!
So you'll get those from time to time, but it's super random and not in a big group setting. Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah. Do you guys like sponsor any community events around here or anything along the lines of that?
Yeah. So yes and no. So we're really big into donations. It is something that people are almost scared to try. Sharp objects and beer, and so people will contact us all the time, and they're doing something. Schools. The American Cancer Society, or there's one of the libraries contacted us because they're doing a thing where kids read books, and so we just say yes. Couple of things we try to stay out of is like very center politics. So if you have a local representative who's doing a camp, I'm not going to donate because I'm not taking sides. Yeah. And maybe super like religious topics. We did have a church who's doing a fundraiser trying to get a new roof, so we'll help with that. But if you're doing like an abortion thing or something, I'm not taking sides. I'm staying out of those. But otherwise, we say yes to all donations. So if you need a donation, contact us.
Where do you land? And I'm going a different direction now. I'm going to take a left. Where do you land on AI?
I love AI, but you got to be very, very careful. I am not okay with AI photos. So I'm going to tell you, the other day I was doing something. I told you about this, I believe. We had lunch, and I told Chat, make me a poster, and I meant make me a post. And so it made me a poster, and I was like, that's not what I wanted. And then I saw this and just said, I meant a post, and so it gives me some words, because I don't mind if you give me some words. I don't want you to make this. And I literally the next day was on Facebook, and one of the other axe houses I follow, not in Missouri, it's out. Literally, it was almost the exact same poster as what Chat made me. And I was like, there's no. So we have core values, and one of my core values is creativity. And if you don't feed into AI properly, you're not going to get good response from AI. And so I have watched my wife, so she talks to hers and he'll talk back. And she'll go, okay, that's great, but what I really meant was, and she does this like volleying back and forth with it until she gets this really good answer. If you don't know how to ask the right questions, you're going to get bad answers and you're going to be worse off for it.
You've got to be good at prompting.
And so you have to be able to ask good questions. A lot of times, so when I said I was asking it to make me a post, I didn't say, hey, make me a post for Tuesday at axe throwing. It was a lot of good prompts. Make me a post, this and this and this and this, and give me some axe-related emojis. And so now I fed everything in, and now it gives it to me. And then I take it out and go, I don't like this word, and I didn't like this, and you were wrong here, and so I made it proper at the end. So I think it is a great tool. It has to be used wisely.
Absolutely.
Do you utilize it in on the business side of things?
Absolutely.
Other than marketing?
So, I'll give you, for instance, I'm starting this dirt box, and I'm like, okay, I would like to open on August 1st. What do I do? And so I'm using Claude for that.
Sure.
And Claude is like, hey, you need to get your Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Google Business. So it has, get you a pimple. You get that all set up this week. Next week you need to do this. So it's creating a calendar for me. Yeah. And then I've used it for some marketing for the craft side of things or for the axe throwing side of things. At times I'll say, okay, you don't understand me well because I didn't help you understand me well. Here's your calendar for this week for me, but this isn't right. Help me develop Tuesday better. If you do that properly, I think it's good. I told you my son's in engineering up in Rolla. He uses AI a lot, but he's been smart about it. He's in a fraternity, and some of his brothers have gotten in trouble because they weren't smart. He's been very, very smart, learning how to do it properly, but he also challenges himself so that when it's done, it's still his voice. Since we're on the topic, I'm going to tell you about a conversation I had with my father-in-law. My father-in-law is an author, so he does a lot of writing of blog posts, and he's a pastor, so he does devotionals, and then he's written a couple of books. And I was asking him how much AI he wants to use, and my analogy was, I don't have time to read, but I have time to do Audible. So on the way home from work, I do Audible every day. And I can tell the difference when it's somebody else reading somebody else's book. Right. Because the voice changed. They're telling a story and the story sounds dry. Yeah. And so I said, how do you use AI? And he's like, well, I've used editors in the past, and the editors will change some of my words and this, and they'll say, move this paragraph here and move this there. And he's like, sometimes that changes my voice. And so after AI has touched some things up, I will go back and make sure I didn't lose my voice. Yeah. And I think that's the most important thing about AI. Did you lose your voice? And so for personal, you have to be very careful. For the business, you might make a post, I may make a post. The voice is going to change, so there has to be this overarching voice about the AI. And so it's like, you got to make sure your voice is still there in the end.
Wow. That's a really interesting point you make, because I think a lot of people today, like, you can tell an AI post, like some posts, so you can almost tell when something's written or made by AI. Yeah. And I've never thought about it that way, but you're right. I mean, it sounds like an AI bot, not like a human actually writing this in the thought process. Yeah. It's really interesting.
Did you see that? Golly, I think it was Yahoo Sports just posted. So they'll repost other people's posts, and they just reposted something, and like 6 or 7 paragraphs down is a thing that says, now if you'd like me to develop this thought more, let me know. Oh, no. And so literally this person posted, Yahoo Sports picked it up, and it was AI.
Wow.
And this
just like copied a prompt right out of there and put it on the post.
And I'll use AI for email at time, but then if I write an email to you, Tristan, and you're asking a question, and then Dustin, you ask a question, I'm going to go through this email that I had saved that AI helped me with and personalize it for you.
For sure.
And
all day long.
You got to make sure, otherwise when you read the email, you're going to feel it's dry, you're going to feel that I wasn't listening to you. And I think you have to be very careful, whether you own a business or you're just talking to a friend, like even wishing somebody a happy birthday. There's a different way to wish different people happy birthday. Right.
I agree.
So.
Yeah, I do the same thing. It's great to have AI and to be able to, I do the way your wife does. I'll be like, write an email, say all the following, make sure this is included in it, and then I'll go back and still review it and make sure that my own personal touch is there in addition to what I've had to ask it to write. Yeah. And it's important to do that. I mean,
Yeah. If you don't, you're going to get super lazy. So
People are going to notice.
yep, I had a professor that was in not too long ago, and we started chatting about this topic, and the professor says I allow students to use AI, but they have to tell me that they've used AI. And part of the reason why is this professor's mindset is 10 years from now, everybody's going to be using it. I want them to be prepared to use it properly. And so they'll go through these papers and say, okay, hang on. You lost your voice for these 3 paragraphs. Go back and rewrite these in your voice. And so this professor, I commend this person because I think they're doing a great job helping these students to be prepared that they won't get lost in the AI revolution.
Yeah.
I don't like the ones that are like, you can't use it at all. Because
My
they're still
kids,
going
I've
on.
got a 14 and a 19-year-old, and they're both like, they want nothing to do with it.
Yes. And here's something else that's interesting. My 18-year-old, I will watch a video and I'm lost. I don't know. And I'll be like, do you see this? That's AI. And I mean, literally split second, he can tell. And I was like, how can you tell? Well, this and that and blah, blah, blah. And he's got me now watching videos and going, wait a second.
Yeah.
And I'm very skeptical of, is this real or not real?
2 years, you're not going to know. It's going to be, unless you see mistakes, like just human nature,
Right.
you're going to be like, you won't know.
Oh,
you won't
yeah.
know at all.
So when I was a kid and I was in speech class, the teacher was always like, take the uhs out. Do
Yeah.
we need to add uhs back in so that it will sound natural?
Right.
Yeah. So
that was
you
real
know,
because he was
you know,
using filler words.
yeah.
I'm in Toastmasters, and so therefore we always try to be mindful and cognizant of not using the filler words.
Right.
But you're right. There is a time and place for it.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with the people that'll be watching this?
I don't think so, man.
We went over quite a bit.
We did.
We did.
Let me just talk about downtown Springfield real quick. You know, downtown Springfield goes through changes on a regular basis. And so if you came here when you were a student and you think about college and 10 years ago it was like this, we've been here 8 years and I think there's like these 5-year phases that happen. So every 5 years there's a transition or so that happens down here, at least in the 8 years I've been here.
Sure.
And then guests who come in tell me about the way it was in the 90s or early 2000s. And so if you haven't been downtown recently, I think you should come downtown and just check it out. Lots of new stuff popping in. And if you're looking to open a business or something, or move a business or do a secondary, downtown's a great place to do it. Competitive pricing on leasing.
Just check your permits and what's allowed in that particular building or property, because I've run into that with a few people
Yeah.
where they had a business that they were going to run and didn't check with authorities, and they discovered later they couldn't.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So just check with you.
There is a overarching, there's a couple of them. So one is called CID and the one is called just Downtown Springfield. So one works on like the beautification and the other's more like marketing us. And so yeah, I would definitely contact those before you did start something.
I think you're absolutely right, though. I mean, even in the last 4 or 5 years, downtown has changed a lot here in Springfield. A lot of new artwork, statues and stuff, some really cool things to see. St. Louis Street is totally different now.
Yeah.
And a lot of neat murals and stuff like that around too. It's a lot brighter.
I think that a lot of that's because of the Route 66
Absolutely.
Centennial celebration.
Yeah.
I think they've done a great job of trying to attract people back downtown, kind of pushing out some of the riffraff. I know when we first opened, we have dumpsters in the back that have like a partition around it to, so it doesn't look ugly, but people would camp out back there. And I would say in the last 3 years, they're just not there.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened or why, but I think they've tried to move them out of the downtown area. And, they were never dangerous, but it's just that awkwardness of bumping into those folks and they're asking for $1 or whichever thing.
Sure.
And nothing against them. I love people. But I think some people didn't like it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say it's cleaned up a lot downtown, and I mean, I'm somebody that isn't huge on the nightlife stuff, but I mean, I feel safe downtown.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially downtown Springfield, it feels like a safe environment.
Yeah.
I've been to bigger cities, it's not like that at all. So it's cool. You
No.
get a mix down here. You get to kind of feel the big city vibes, lots of stuff to do, but you also have that security, and you're close to home. I mean,
Sure.
for anyone in Springfield, it takes you 15, 20 minutes to get here.
Yeah.
So it's
So I'll tell you about that safety part. So I was the director of management. When we were opening these axe houses, I was the person that would go in and hire, like I would do all the interviews and put out the ads on Indeed and the location that they chose in Omaha, Nebraska was sketchy, guys. It was rough. And so I'm doing interviews in January at like 6 o'clock. It's dark. And there's a big garage door there, so the windows, and I am watching transactions occur on the street out in front of the location. And I'm like, I don't feel safe. And about half of the interviewees never showed up. And I know why. And so we have a very safe.
You come back here and you're grateful. You're like, oh, this is
guys, in 8 years, downtown, I don't know I've ever seen a drug transaction occur
that's amazing.
downtown. And I've been places. I went to college in Minneapolis, Minnesota. You'd see them every week,
Oh sure.
and I know what to look for because I saw them so often. I don't think I've ever seen that type of thing happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen in downtown Springfield, but I've never seen it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, which speaks volumes too, right? Because when it's something that it's apparently obvious too, that's like there's problems, big time.
yeah.
So that's really cool. Well, appreciate your time today.
Yeah,
Yeah,
John.
God,
This
I
is
appreciate you. Yeah.
been a lot
Yeah,
of
thanks
fun.
for letting us come in and
Yeah.
throw some sharp tools.
How do people find you? If they want to come do axe throwing,
Yeah.
where are they going to find you at?
Super simple, craftaxethrowing.com. Always remember, craft is with a C, axe has an E, and then you go on there, you can choose our location. So it'll take you, I think it says locations up on the top bar, and then you click on it, it'll say Missouri, and Springfield's under that.
And what's the address of your location here?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and recommend that you put in to either Google Maps or Apple Maps craft axe throwing.
Okay.
Because our actual location, this building is virtually 2 blocks long.
Oh, yeah.
And our mailing address is Jefferson. So it's clear down on Jefferson.
Wow, huh.
And so in the beginning, people had a hard time finding us. If you just put in, we have the pin set up on Google and Apple, and that'll bring you right to our front or back door. I would highly recommend using the parking lot in the back. So we have both the front door and a back door, but we got that giant free parking in the back. So that's off of Elm and Jefferson. And then that big sign, I don't know if you saw it up above our door, it says Axes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
But anyway, our address is 431 South Jefferson. But definitely put us in just our name into Google or Apple.
Cool.
Thanks for listening to Living in the Ozarks. If you know somebody with a great story, somebody we need to sit down with, send them our way at livingintheozarks.com. We'd love to meet with them.